there's no reason why I am who I am today, or why I have spoken in 15 countries and coached amazing people, other than I was committed to making it happen. I was committed to myself. I heard something today that Dr. Joe Dispenser said, and he said it's you showing up for you, or something like that, you showing up for yourself. And that's all I've ever done, is showed up for myself. So I never want to get to stagnant, to plateau, and for that reason, I keep showing up for myself in the areas of self and situational awareness. Awareness is what we need to change. If you're not aware, you can't change anything. So I'm always seeking awareness through education and challenges.
Has the importance of education been highlighted more to you since your accident? Have you needed that mentally?
Yes. So my recovery from my accident was looked at as miraculous.
Going back, I think we should actually tell people what's happened.
Oh yeah, sorry.
People listening to that probably don't know.
Yeah.
Your audience will know, but my audience.
Yes. So I have been in sport and fitness my whole life. I've always liked doing physical challenges. It started when I was a teenager. I cycled 200 miles, then it was the Great Wall of China, then it was Thai boxing in Thailand. I want to say this year, in 2019, I decided to cycle from the north to the south of the UK, so going through Scotland, touching on Wales and going to the bottom of England. And I was on the 8th day, 800 and something miles, and I was hit head on by an unfit to drive driver, let's just say that, because it's still very much going on. And I broke my legs in multiple places. I flew 100 meters off the side of the road, got stopped by a tree. My bike was shattered in 20 pieces. I had punctured lung, heart trauma, perforated bowel, broken arm, snapped twice, snapped femur, snapped shin 3 times. Doctor said you're very lucky to be alive. But to go back to what I was saying, my recovery was seen as something remarkable and wow, and people are like, oh, you're recovering too fast. Like, you know, it's been 5 months, you shouldn't be where you are. My lawyer said to me that are handling my case, said, JP, we're not kidding you, that in 7 months, you are recovered more than anyone we've ever had as a client. Usually people are where you are 2 years after an accident, but it's not a coincidence. It's because of everything I've learned my whole life. Like, I swear my wife must get so annoyed with me because I'm always learning, I'm always studying. If I'm at home, I have a YouTube video on, a podcast on, an audio book on. I'm always learning. So to be able to take, or already to be able to be committed to learning, because I understand the importance of it, but then to be put in a situation where you're deep in a valley, deep in a challenge, and be able to rely on those tools to a point that even when you were close to your death, you have no uncertainty about your recovery. That just reminded me that, hey, I just got to keep studying. But one thing that was missing from my life was I teach self-mastery. That's what I've done my whole, from personal trainer to coach, life coach, peak performance, how to master yourself. But for most of my adult life, I've taught mind and body. But I knew that my next evolution was in heart mastery. That's why I did the Vipassana meditation. That's why I'm here with you at Dr. Joe Dispenser at an event called Higher Love. Because that for me is my next, I added to my question, or your question, but that for me is the next level of education, is being able to not just transform people's bodies and minds, but heal their hearts. That's it.
Okay. Why is it important to heal your heart? Why have you gone from mind and body to heart healing?
Because I'm going to say the blanket version, which is you can push your mind and have the best body in the world. If you still have wounds from your past, you'll never truly leave them behind. So that's a true fact, right? You can look it up. You can look into healing and emotional trauma. But also I know that from my own personal experience. I truly believe this, that I had to have that accident because I was very good at being successful, inspiring from stage. I've had a great physique my whole life because I always train. I can push my body and my mind, but I always kept myself very, very, very busy. Because if I wasn't busy, I'd have to think about everything that I was suppressing. As long as you're busy being busy, or even busy being successful, You don't have to feel that much. So over the last 6-7 years, I've started to slowly get into meditation, into yoga, and the more I slow down, the more I was able to see the truth. Truth has become one of my highest values today. And to explain slowing down and seeing the truth, I have a story or an example that I use. Imagine doing the Virgin train or any fast bullet train, and you're going from London to Manchester. It's an amazing experience. Even if you're sitting in first class, which I love to do, you feel amazing and you know where you're going and you're traveling fast and you've got all the nice clothes on, but you can't see what's really going on around you because everything's a blur. Because you're so focused on your work or your next meal coming, or where you've got to get to your next meal, or finishing as much work as you can before you get to your meeting. It isn't until you slow down, or even the train breaks down and stops and sits still, i.e. meditation. This is a metaphor for life, that you can actually see the truth, which is what's going on around you.
You think that endurance sport can be a mask for emotional problems?
The answer is it can be. Yes, absolutely. So for anyone that's doing a lot of sport, I would recommend this. Ask yourself, when you're not in sport, how do you feel? That's a very important question, because if you feel like you need, exercise makes me feel good, but when I'm not exercising, I generally feel good too. I love speaking, I love doing podcasts, I love doing Facebook Lives, so I don't have to be in fitness all the time. But when I had my accident, I'm sure you were aware of who David Goggins is.
Of course.
Okay,
yeah.
so the most extreme iron person in the world is this guy named David Goggins, an ultra endurance athlete. 4 weeks after my accident, 4 weeks after I left hospital, something like that, a few weeks, I was still on a lot of morphine. But I knew that David was coming to London to speak for the very first time, and I had to get there. Anyway, I pumped loads of morphine and gabapentin in my body, and I got a ride to London in a car. I had a wheelchair waiting for me, and I was able to get to an event with David Goggins, stayed just for his talk, not the 2 days, just stayed for an hour. And then I was able to go into a conference room like the one we're in right now, and I had a sit down with David. I was gifted it from my friend, Nick James. He gifted me a one-to-one really with David Goggins, even though there were other people there, and I was able to share my story. And David Goggins said to me this, because my question to him was, I want to go and show the world how you can turn this around, how I can turn this around. It can be inspiring, and I want to do an Ironman in 4 months. Have you got any advice for me? How can I be David Goggins in my attitude and recover super quick? And he said to me, not what I thought.
What did he say?
He said, JP, you're like me. He said, your fuel is fitness. It's your medicine. He said, all these stories about me, the ultra runs, the broken shins, the broken feet, taping my feet to my shins so I could keep running. But what you don't know is between those extraordinary events, I would spend 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 6 years at one point, not doing anything. So you see me doing these amazing things, but there were times where I couldn't do anything. And he said, let me tell you something, that's who I figured out who I really was. And he said, do this. He said, set challenges, but don't put a date on it. He said, right now, he said, stop taking the medicine. And excuse my language, can I use David Goggins' language? No? Okay. He said, then you'll see who you really fucking are. And that was like in my throat, because I knew he was right. I've always done this stuff, so let me see who I am. And actually, if David ever watches this, or Nick James ever watches this, or listens to this, I just want to say thank you, because that was the greatest advice that I needed, because it made me slow down and stop and realize that, hey, for me, the next level is growing my heart, not my body, not my mind. And that's all I've been doing this year. And it's been beautiful. It has been beautiful. And I've changed as a person. So, short answer, it can be a way for people to block out what's really going on. So my question to you as a coach, anyone listening, would be, do you need to feel good? Or do you need to do exercise to feel good? Or do you just enjoy doing it? And if you only feel good when you do exercise, you should really speak to someone about that. Go to an event, see a coach, get a mentor, whatever, because that's a problem. You shouldn't need an experience or an external environment outside of yourself to feel